Laipply podcast.
Is he trying to provoke an armed attack?
I think he would argue we're already under attack. You've got Venezuela that does move drugs into our country, not fentanyl. I agree with you. It's mostly cocaine, but they are part of a narco-terrorist system in our hemisphere that floods our country with drugs, and other countries that are our allies. They flood them with drugs. I agree with Jim. Efforts in the past seem to have not curtailed this. And so, look, he had promised a more muscular response to the international drug trade, particularly in our hemisphere. Now we're getting it. I mean, I guess you could debate the legality of it. I'll tell you the politics of it. It's about a 70-30 issue. The American people have been wanting the government to do something more about the narco-terrorism in our hemisphere, and they're doing it. And so I guess we'll see what the lawyers have to say, but I know what the American people think, and it's like, finally, somebody is taking these narco-terrorists seriously.
Well, you have to be killing narco-terrorists. We don't know who the people are on the boats.
They look like drug boats to me. I don't think these are mild-mannered fishermen.
That seems to be the rationale. They look like drug boats to me. That seems to be as far as we're going with that.
I was aware of my opponent's strategy, and I wasn't about to fall prey. Or fall into those traps. And part of his strategy and those around him was to try and take me off our game and message.
You had none.
And I wasn't about to be distracted by those flames that he was trying to throw.
What's going on with you? What are you talking about?
To get me away from my highest priority, which is talking to people about the economy and their well-being in terms of their financial well-being. And so I understood the game that was being played, and I made a decision that I wasn't going to get played. And
you sound stupid when you say stuff like that.
Chess, not checkers. Got it.
Chess, not checkers. Yeah, three-dimensional chess, I'm telling you. You know?
Oh, no.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
Capitalism isn't, to me, it's an ideology of capital.
I thought that fascist takeover attempts were going to be architected by evil geniuses. I was not expecting how just dumb so many of the people architecting this were going to be, and it does not merit my intellectual respect.
The American people. But what Democrats find themselves in a place is we've shut down the government to protect subsidies for an insurance marketplace that funnels $800 billion a year into the pockets of all these insurance companies.
$800 billion to insurance companies? You know what you could buy with $800 billion? The Democratic Party, apparently.
From the property tax situation. It's very important, given how that's pinched so many homeowners, particularly our senior citizens who have their homes paid off and they bought it 30 years ago for a certain amount. Now they're being told it's worth so much more and they have to pony up more and more money. It's almost like they have to pay rent to the government just to be able to enjoy their property. And that's wrong. And we need to do something about it.
I hope this question doesn't piss you off. Yesterday, the stock market took a pretty good jump on news that the shutdown might come to an end. A lot of people did very well in the stock market, I assume, and I assume that you probably were one of them, and good for you.
That would be an incorrect assumption because I had to sell all my stocks to become Treasury Secretary.
You sold them all?
Had to, yes.
But you have a blind trust, I would imagine.
There's no such thing as a blind trust.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for straightening me out on that.
Well, yes, he is, of course, because when Democrats take power, if and when that happens, when they control at some point in the future, whenever that is, the House, the Senate, and the White House, what's the first thing they're going to do, Larry? They've advertised it, they've promoted it, they've talked about it, and they've booted two people, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, out of the party for disagreeing with them on it, and that is ending the filibuster. They will end the filibuster. They will pass communist health care. They will abolish private health insurance. They will kick 140 million Americans off of their employer-sponsored health care plans. They will give citizenship and amnesty to every single illegal alien in the country, and millions more to come. They will pack the Supreme Court with 4 or 5 Marxist judges. They will make D.C. and Puerto Rico a state, and that will be just the beginning of what they do to cement and solidify permanent political power in this country. We all know that's coming. We all understand that's coming. And the best chance that we have to prevent that is to end the filibuster now so that we can pass the full and complete Republican agenda, make it permanent, and deliver secure elections to this country in the form of voter ID and ending once and for all non-citizen voting by requiring proof of citizenship to vote. These are basic fundamental things to having a democracy. But you asked earlier, I need to answer it. What is next for the economic plan for this president? We're focusing relentlessly on affordability.
Some transparency. Why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public.
Trump did not receive or send any of the messages. They largely predate his time as president, and he has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing in connection with Epstein or Maxwell. The White House is now responding and saying that, and I'm quoting now from the White House, the Democrats selectively leaked emails to the liberal media to create a fake narrative to smear President Trump, end quote.
All right, Wednesday night, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing good. As always, be blessed in the mighty name of Jesus. Welcome to another giant Democratic Party hoax. We'll jump right into this. I'm going to actually start at the bottom, see if you guys can. Oh man, I was going to say see if you can stay ahead of me, but you guys are blowing me away already. All right, JGCK is on. Guitar Glenn is on. Greg Ninemon is on. Nitsua 99 is on. Richard Perry 49 is on. Mr. Cool Dude is on. N Johns 127 is on. Scooter Magruder is on. Lita Bonita is on. Supergirl 21 is on. LA 106 Times is on. Skunk 71 is on. PD Frank is on. Robin Aroni is on. Agravane is on. Hefner is on. USA Happy Girl is on. Golf Master 1 is on. Let me see here. Jules 21 hours already in the rant. Thank you so much for that. Is on. Excuse me. Gloyd Shaw is on. Mike Griffith is on. Jeannie Malfeasy is on. Veronica 18201 is on. 23 Justin Blake is on. Let me see here. Peg McGroin is on. John Phillips is on. Sheila K is on. K4 VMS is on. Uncle Wally is on. Let me see here. Ian Mark FB is on. Let me see. Let me grab a couple more. Keeper 1376 is on. All right, scrolling down here, looking. Buckeye Nut 1968 is on. Milwaukee James is on. Waterline 46 is on. Snag Dog is on. Let me grab a couple more. Conservative Waffle is on. Producer Aaron is on. Barn Evil is on. Let me see here. Scrolling down here. Let me see. Those Jesus People's on. Linesmanson is on. Let me grab. Big Jim Go Blue is on. TJT1 is on. Stephen Toms is on. Milwaukee James is on. Let me grab one or two more. Let me scroll down here. Trisha Snow is on. Arcadia Angel is on. Appreciate you guys. Love each and every one of you. Thanks for being on tonight. All right, let's get to the latest hoax now. Here it is. You can put the first one up for me. Well, here's rap. Of course, you can guess whether it's Democrat or Republican. Of course, it's Democratic Party leftist. And I actually responded to this email or another one not email. The emails are in my head now. This Twitter post with "You're the next one to be sued for defamation," because she's the one that's going. I don't know why they designate. I've never heard of her before. Melanie Stansberry. I don't know why they. I can't remember what state she's a rep out of, like Connecticut or something along those lines. But anyway, She's been making the rounds, doing the talking head shows, making this claim. Trump is in the files as she claps. Trump's in the file. Email, as these are all new revelations, allegedly. Email from Epstein to Maxwell released by the estate and House oversight today, as if any of this was new to anybody. Thank you, Erin, out of New Mexico. There you go. Thank you so much. She's a rep out of New Mexico. But anyway, so as if these are new revelations. And I will go ahead and paraphrase producer Aaron, right, as we were watching the pregame. That's great. Where are the Epstein files? So here's the thing. It would be very, very helpful. And as I was listening to Alex Jones today, I agree 100% with what he says. They couldn't have created any worse of a Streisand effect than they have. And I'm talking about the Trump administration. I don't know. And then the polling that's coming out from Rasmussen towards Trump, not good. And it's starting to become revelatory to a lot of people that the people around Donald Trump are afraid to tell him the truth. That is never good. I hope that nobody that works for me is afraid to tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. I want to know the truth. I've said this a million times. If you see me, if maybe some of you go to church here at Foundation Church, or you pop in whenever you can, and you happen to see me and I have a giant green booger hanging out of my nose, please come and tell me. Don't let me walk out there in front of 1,000 people and shake their hands when I got green mail hanging out of my right nostril. Tell me the truth. But right now it appears that that's the case, because who was it that orchestrated this? Now, allegedly, and I put these things allegedly because rumor has it, again, source Alex Jones. And listen, Alex Jones's sources are pretty impeccable. They really are impeccable. And you look at the other people that are connected to Alex Jones and their sources. But allegedly, what was done with the Epstein files, and let me put this out here clearly for everyone, Trump diddled no chicks of age, underage, or anybody else affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. Trump, if anything, was an FBI DOJ informant against Jeffrey Epstein, as will be illustrated, because we're going to go line by line into these emails that are revelatory knowledge now to the Democratic Party, which have been available to them, since 2005. Oh, no, these are 2011, 2019, and 2015. So since 2011, these have been available to the Democratic Party. But lo and behold, they never gave two craps about it until they felt like it would be politically expedient to do so, to try to torpedo Donald Trump. But allegedly, the deal that was made was between the CIA and Donald Trump was, you cannot release the Epstein files because it's a threat to national security. It's not a threat to national security. Everything is inverted. Everything is conflated. Threat to national security now means threat to Democratic Party politicians and their collaborators in the Republican Party. That is now that they say, because they are part of the government, that if you reveal their criminality, that it's a threat to our national security. Would everybody agree that it's not a threat to our national security? If it is discovered that Christopher Wray is corrupt, that John Brennan and James Clapper are corrupt, it's just a threat to our national security, because national security officials are in fact criminally corrupt. Would everybody agree on that? It says, it's not a threat to national security when a national security advisor or employee is a criminal, and we are exposing their criminality. So why, if this happened and Trump agreed to this deal, because Trump himself is innocent, and this Epstein file has been, and it's not just some sort of Rolodex file like you and I have for our taxes. It is all over the United States of America, multiple locations at various FBI agencies and offices, and in numerous courthouses across the United States of America, with various depositions and testimonies and court documents. But anyway, so there is no real Epstein file. They're going to walk out like the idiot, the whole idiot binder thing. Oh, they're in our hand. Oh, what a bunch of idiots. I mean, they ought to. I mean, DC Drainer ought to know better. Liz Wheeler, you ought to know better than to walk out of the White House with a binder and shake it at the camera. Oh, we have the Epstein files, and not one thing in there was anything new at all. We all knew about it if we ever follow the story at all. But anyway, so there really is no Epstein file, except for this sort of accumulation of files around the United States, which could be put into one giant Epstein file. So again, that's not going to happen. I mean, it might happen, but the thing is, over this Epstein file, and again, there is no Epstein file, but for ease of conversation, we have to call it Epstein file or files. So this Epstein file has been available since somewhere around 2005 till now. And anybody could have pulled it, and nobody did. But allegedly, Trump made a deal with the CIA, i.e. the CIA Director John Ratcliffe. We cannot release these files that we have because it is a grievous threat to national security. Because now Trump is, and I agree with this, covering up for other people. I 100% believe he's covering up for other people. And you can't do that. That does not fit into my giant balls narrative. If you're really going to turn this thing around, you can't pass a CR that adds $2.3 trillion to our national debt. You have to say, we're going to cut government spending in half like Elon did. And Elon was saying that. And what happened to Elon? He gone. And instead of getting our government spending house in order, Elon's gone. And Elon's basically blackpilled and said there's no hope to ever reform the government. So this Epstein file doesn't exist. Now, the last thing I want to say about it, and I want to reiterate one last time, Trump is completely innocent of all criminality associated with Jeffrey Epstein and any criminality that he's been accused of whatsoever. He's completely innocent, but he couldn't have made it any worse on himself than he has. Just release what you have. Release every last thing that you have. But there's things in there that say Donald Trump because it was added by Brennan. It was added by Clapper. Maureen Comey's going down. If we have giant balls, Maureen Comey will spend the rest of her life in federal prison because she was tampering with witnesses. She was going to the cellmate of Jeffrey Epstein. Not to the cellmate, but the cellmate testified to this. That her deal to Jeffrey Epstein was, all I need you to do is say. You don't need to be able to prove it. We don't even need to prove it against Donald Trump. This is an alleged, get this, Aaron, unbiased prosecutor.
Yeah, of course.
Unbiased prosecutor, even though she's, her daddy's James Comey. But anyway, he just left in place for some odd reason all these years, including the first 6 months of the Trump administration. For some odd reason, they're allowed in place because you got to have giant balls. You got to be able to go in there with giant nuts and fire all these people. That's what you got to do. You got to be able to fire all these people. You see, I'll equate it to church stuff for a second. If you have a major giver to your church, I mean, I'm talking about like a major giver, whatever it is. I don't even know who gives what in our church. But anyway, because I don't look. But anyway, say you had one and like your church is going to go under without it. And their son's homosexual. And if you preach that homosexuality is a sin, they're going to leave your church. What are you going to do? You go up there with your giant testicles and you preach it to their face. Yep. That's what you do. That is life. If you don't do that, and like a lot of men, they need to go up to their wife, tell them, shut up. I need you to shut up. I need you to stop ordering me around. And I need you to stop manipulating, using sex as manipulation or whatever else. Tell it to their freaking face. They have no nuts. They have no balls. I've never lived like that. I'll just be fired. I got into verbal altercations with supervisors and other cops because I'm not going to sit there and take your crap. That's just the way this thing, and this is what Trump needs to do. Is just put this out there. Maureen Comey goes to Jeffrey Epstein and says, all you got to do is say that you saw him. And you were going to be released. That's why he was all happy, by the way. That's why he was not suicidal. He knew he was going to be released by Maureen Comey, and then they end up killing him anyway. But anyway, so Maureen Comey needs to spend the rest of her life in federal prison for tampering with a witness. Very simple, or at least a decade in federal prison. She can just lose all of her 30s and have most of her 40s in federal prison, like she wanted to do with everybody else anyway. So if Trump should just release what they have. Now, these files have been tampered with by Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Obama, Biden, their ICA, intelligence community assessments, and everything else that's been tampered with. They have false accusations with Trump with girls, has already been debunked and disproven. They have false accusations in there that the Melania was a prostitute, was introduced by was introduced to Trump by Jeffrey Epstein. It's all been debunked. So release it, and then you just make fun of it. It's what you're going to have to do. And if you did that, it'd shut everybody up. Yeah, you'd have to go on defense for a couple months, but it would shut everybody up. Now you'd be on defense for a couple months. It all flames out. Every single accusation that's come out has flamed out. The drawing, remember that? Drawing that Donald Trump said to Jeffrey Epstein has been completely debunked. Everything gets debunked, and you humiliate people, and you even usher them into criminality or defamation as they lie about what's on the Epstein files. But instead of it and just coming out with it, let's just say, January 21st of this year or February 1st, whatever of this year, get it out. It'll all be over by now. But instead, here we are still wading through the swamp because Democrats still look at it as a politically expedient item for them to use to hurt Donald Trump because it's not been released. Where's the freaking flight log? Where is it? Why can't we see the flight log has been in senatorial custody for as long as I can remember? At least the 4 years of Biden. Dick Durbin had it. Tricky Dicky Little Durbin. He had it. The man is retiring now. It's funny that Pelosi's retiring, but her daughter's now running for office. Funny that, that she's retiring now. And why is that happening? The pipe bomber is about to be identified as a DC Metro cop working with the CIA. So Nance is going. And she's got her $300 million that she's made off of insider trading, and she's moving back to San Fran. That's what's happening. All right, so back to the story. So you got Melanie Stansberry claiming that Trump is in the file. Email. An email from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell released by the estate and House oversight today. What happened to these emails? Okay, let's look at it now. Let's break down the story from Grok. I love Grok, by the way.
Me too.
Grok's good stuff, man. Grok's good stuff.
I use it to troubleshoot all the time.
Me too. Now,
It's great.
I love it. I mean, it's great. But here's Grok. The Epstein email story breakdown of the latest developments on November 12, 2025. House Democrats on the Oversight Committee released 3 key emails. Here's the House Democrats releasing it. From Jeffrey Epstein estate, sparking intense political debate. Now, number one, why didn't they release it a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Why? Oh, Biden was in office. These messages, part of a larger trove of over 23,000 documents. This is all you could find. Wait till you read them. This is the best I got. Wait till you see them. You're going to laugh. 23,000 documents subpoenaed from Epstein's estate, and this is the best of the best, directly referenced former President Donald Trump, now in his second term, and his past associations with Epstein. The release comes amid ongoing bipartisan pressure to declassify full Epstein files, including flight logs, which have been available in the Senate for 5 years, at least, and investigative records held by the DOJ. While the emails don't accuse Trump of criminal acts, as they never will because he never committed a crime, they suggest he had deeper knowledge. Oh, he didn't commit any crimes, but he has deeper knowledge. What does that mean? Find that in the statute book for me. I always tell people, find a Bible verse to back up your beliefs. Find in the statute book what deeper knowledge means and how that implicates anybody in anything. But now these emails prove that he had deeper knowledge of Epstein's activities. This was a man, Donald J. Trump, who was an informer for the DOJ. He was the one turning in Jeffrey Epstein, which these emails reveal that. And Democrats, it's so funny. These people are so stupid that they put out an email to torpedo Trump, and it actually establishes his truthfulness. They're so stupid. But anyway, while the emails don't accuse Trump of criminal acts, they suggest he had a deeper knowledge of Epstein's activities than previously acknowledged. No, it doesn't prove that at all. Republicans quickly countered by releasing an additional 20,000 pages, accusing Democrats of cherry picking for political gain. Key emails and their content, the emails span 2011 to 2019. So the closest one, and none of these were ever sent or received by Donald Trump. But look at how Melanie Stansberry frames it. Trump is in the files. Email from Epstein to Maxwell released by the estate and House Oversight Committee. Donald Trump isn't in the emails. He doesn't send an email, nothing. Involved Epstein's communications with Ghislaine Maxwell and journalist Michael Wolff. So Epstein is communicating with Michael Wolff. Now, who's Michael Wolff? The author of many anti-Trump books. That's who he's communicating with. So if Donald Trump was allies with Jeffrey Epstein and was diddling chicks with Jeffrey Epstein, is all the Democrats want you to believe, as that one Democratic Party congressman said on Joe Scarborough's show that he was actually having sex with Epstein's girls, if that was the case, then why would Epstein be working with Michael Wolff to write an anti-Trump book? Wouldn't it be, here you have a guy who you've honeypotted, wouldn't you be working on a pro-Trump book or a no-Trump book or a Trump bribery scheme, not writing a book to tick off somebody who's already a collaborator with you? So there you go. So let's go through here we go. We'll go through the emails in order. You guys don't have this. I have them written down here. This is beautiful. Get ready now. This is just shocking. Now remember, 23,000 files. And this is what they came up with. I'll show you all. This is what they kept right here. There it is. 23,000. And that's what they came up with right there. There you go. That's it. That's all you can do. And that's all sent into AI now. I'm sure they have, well, maybe they're too stupid to use AI. But you send in, give me anything, put into some kind of software. Give me anything, any salacious detail on Donald J. Trump in these 23,000 files. And this is what you get, 3 pages. April 2011 email. Here it is. This one sent from Epstein to Maxwell. Here it is. Jeffrey Epstein says to Maxwell, I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. That was Virginia Giuffre, who has publicly testified numerous times and wrote a book that Donald Trump never came anywhere near her, never flirted with her, and never was inappropriate with her, and certainly never had sex with her. That's who this victim is. Victim spent hours at my house with Trump. He has never once been mentioned. Whoa, isn't that salacious? Oh, the whole house coming down. Walls are closing in. Context. Epstein highlights Trump's silence and media scrutiny of Epstein's network. And this is after Epstein already knew that Donald Trump had turned him in and kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Why did he kick him out of Mar-a-Lago? Because he was recruiting underage girls at Mar-a-Lago. And Melania was pissed about it. So Donald Trump kicked him out after numerous complaints from his employees saying this guy, this weirdo, keeps trying to get 15-year-old chicks to give him massages. So Trump kicks him out. Boy, he's really guilty, isn't he? How horrible of him. Plus, Trump also outbid him for a real estate venture, which ticked him off. Implying Trump was present during interactions with an unnamed victim. Democrats suggest this refers to Virginia Giuffre. And that's so funny because then they torpedo their own allegation again because she's already under record. Court documents, her own book, and her own personal testimonies that he never came anywhere near her. But the allegation is Trump spent hours with her at Epstein's house with Epstein there. This was shortly after Giuffre's allegations against Prince Andrew surfaced in the Mail on Sunday. There you go. So that's the 2011, 14 freaking years ago. Over that, actually, 14 and a half years ago. Now we have this one, December 16th, 2015. This is the best Democrats have. And this one was Wolf to Epstein. So here you had the author writing this to the anti-Trump author writing this to Epstein. Heads up. I think you should let him, he means Trump, hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. Oh, boy, Trump's already acknowledged he's been on the plane and at Jeffrey's house. What? This is all you have? And this is what you're going to put out? These people are so pathetic. And they're criminals themselves, which we'll get to in a minute. Now Epstein back. This is Epstein writing to Wolf 4 years later. 4 years later between. So we have one email in 2011, then another email 4 freaking years later in 2015, and then another one 4 years later in 2019. This is what Democrats have to try to torpedo Trump. This one's written from Epstein to Wolf. Of course, Trump knew about the girls as he asked Elaine to stop. They completely exonerated him right there. Trump knew about the girls, and because he knew about the girls, he told you to cease and desist your criminal activities on the grounds of Mar-a-Lago. That exonerates Trump, and they put this out as if it incriminates him. That's how stupid these people are. Ignorant, stupid people. Now, I want to remind you of this story, because here's the thing. I'm not reminding myself of this. I discovered this today. I didn't even know this was a story. Some of you, probably most of you, have already heard this. But anyway, I want to put this out. It's a Maze video. Here's going back to 2024. CNN reports that according to a 2011 email written by Virginia Giuffre, Billy Clinton had stopped Vanity Fair from writing sex trafficking articles on Epstein. Play it for me.
New details this morning. Hundreds of new pages have been unsealed in a lawsuit connected to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The victim alleges that former President Clinton pressured Vanity Fair not to run a story on Epstein. The pages also shed new light on how Epstein's victims were recruited and what happened to them. CNN's Gene Cesaris joins us now. And Gene, we're talking about 900 pages here, so there's a lot to go through. What new details have come out?
Well, they came out last night, combing through them. And, this all stems from a 2015 civil suit brought by Virginia Giuffre against Ghislaine Maxwell. And Virginia Giuffre had wanted her story to come out. She wanted a book. And so she became very close with a reporter out of Britain. And this reporter was encouraging her to go to the Vanity Fair magazine, to have them do an article on it. And here is what, in a newly undisclosed email from 2011, Here's what Virginia Giuffre says. She says, considering that B. Clinton walked into VF, Vanity Fair, and threatened them not to write sex trafficking articles about his good friend, J.E., Jeffrey Epstein. So she didn't.
I thought it was a free and fair, unbiased press, uninfluenced. No, they just walk. All it takes is Vanity Fair, who likes to expose things that don't exist about Donald Trump, but things that actually do exist about Billy Clinton, who's on the Lolita Express at least 27 times and cancels his Secret Service every time he goes on there. That's weird. Isn't that weird? I mean, why would you not want your Secret Service agents to come on there? If you're innocent, why would you cancel them 27 times? You go on the Lolita Express and fly out to Epstein Island. Why? And then your Secret Service agents aren't on the island with you either. Boy, that makes you vulnerable, doesn't it? Vulnerable to espionage also, but let's lay that aside for just a minute. But Billy Clinton trots into Vanity Fair and tells him, don't write an article exposing the sex trafficking of my friend Jeffrey Epstein. And here's the morality of Vanity Fair. It is more important to us to please our Democratic Party allies than expose the criminality of somebody trafficking in 14-year-old women, 14-year-old girls. That's the morality of the virtuous left. The virtuous Goebbels media. All right, so off of the hoax now. There it is. That's where it all stands. Those are the illustrious 3 emails. That's all the Democrats have. It's all a giant nothing burger. Nothing to it. And all that Trump needs to do is just say, you know what? I've freaking had it. Here's everything. And it's over. Yeah, well, he'll eat it, pseudo eat it, but there's nothing there to eat. The problem is it exposes Mossad, it exposes the CIA, it exposes MI6 and MI5, and exposes a lot of Democratic Party governmental appointees and their capitulating Republicans. That's it. Let them go to prison for the rest of their life. Big, giant balls. Go up there and send them to prison. Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Maureen Comey, numerous others, send them to prison. That's what you do. Well, yeah, but then they're going to do that to us. It's like what Trump is saying right now about the filibuster. If you get rid of the filibuster, then there's nothing to stop Democrats. Well, as soon as they're in power, they're getting rid of the filibuster. So you might as well get rid of it now. If they're in power, they're going to get rid of the filibuster. I mean, it's not hard. It's really not hard. And Trump is 100% right. Trump is right a lot of the time. He's a great president, but he has got a blind side on this. I wonder why it is. Because most of his advisors are Israel sycophants who are covering up for Mossad and CIA and MI6, which are basically indistinguishable. And no, not every root of evil comes out of Tel Aviv, okay? So don't go into it. It's very, not everything is Israel. If you think everything's Israel, you've lost your mind. You have the International Monetary Fund, you have the Chinese, you have the London Bank, you have the entire Muslim problem. And you can't go, I mean, think about it. Sometimes you just don't choose a side. That's what you do. You don't choose a side because you have evil coming from both. You don't sit there and choose a side in the Iran-Iraq war. You don't choose a side because they're both evil. You certainly can't side with Islam over Israel. Some idiots on the right are doing that. So basically you're siding with communist, monarchy, Sharia law movement over Israel. Now, here's the problem. I'm not siding with Israel either, but if I had to choose, I'd choose Israel. But I don't have to choose. That's what's great. Because Israel does not deserve to be a vassal state, a benefactor of ours any longer. They're one of the richest countries on the planet per capita, and we still send them. We always say $3.8 billion, but that doesn't cover the military. It's like $20 to $30 billion a year goes to Israel. For what? Do you know they have 1,000 nuclear warheads? It doesn't matter whether we defend them or not. They can defend themselves. They can blow up the planet alone.
Yep.
Alone. They don't need us. And they are filthy, rotten rich. They own Pornhub.
Yep. And OnlyFans.
Yeah. They own OnlyFans, Pornhub, and everything else. Now you go flip the goat. Oh, well, that makes you pro-Palestinian. Certainly not, because those are the goat rapists. So you just go, you know what? I don't choose either. You don't have to. You just tell the truth. And by the way, the United States is no Vestal Virgin either. Look at what we do. You don't go, you know what? I'm just going to blindly follow the United States. You blindly follow the United States when Hussein Obama was the president and he's drone striking Americans. No, you say they're evil too. So you don't. Now we choose to be citizens of the United States, but like Alex Jones always says, you simply call balls and strikes on everything. You're honest about everything. That's what you do. So again, just don't be somebody who looks for it, and credit Alex Jones on this, the simple solution. Israel's the root of all evil. No, the love of money is the root of all evil. Always go with what the Bible says. Now, of course, I'm always going to support the United States, but I certainly will criticize the United States. Now, here's the difference. I will not always support Israel. I always have to support the United States or I'm committing treason. All right, depending on how what I mean by what anybody means by supporting the United States. I mean, but with Israel or with any other country, I don't have to support them at all. Now, there's this giant war going on in the Republican Party between like the Shapiros and the Tucker Carlsons and everything else. And the people that are warring against Tucker Carlson are those who don't want Israel criticized at all. So you're not going to criticize Israel for owning Pornhub and OnlyFans and for refusing to extradite pedophiles? If I don't bless Israel as they refuse to extradite pedophiles, I'm going to be cursed. That's how that works. The Almighty God of Israel, Yahweh, He is going to curse me because I won't bless Israel in their ownership of Pornhub. And who owns Pornhub, by the way? A rabbi. Mm-hmm. And Israel owns OnlyFans and refuses to extradite 20,000 pedophiles. I'm curious. Now, if I don't blindly follow that and somehow put some sort of false virtue on that I'm going to be cursed from God. So God supports OnlyFans, Pornhub, and non-extraditing pedophiles. Can you explain that to me? Ted Cruz? I mean, or Ben Shapiro. Now, flip side, I hate Islam. Hate it. So see, I don't have to choose sides purely. And again, if I had to choose sides, I'd choose Israel over Islam. But that's if I had to choose. And guess what? I don't have to do. I don't have to choose. It's not my fight. They want to fight, let them fight. All right. So now, before I get into full attack mode on the criminality of Democrats, I got a whole stack on various crimes Democrats have committed as they're trying to falsely accuse Donald Trump of committing crimes that don't exist. I want to throw this out there first, just before I get to that. This is probably the most interesting video of the day, and of course, it's put out by the BBC. Who will say anything to make sure that they line up with leftist values so they don't lose their leftist audience, because if they lose their leftist audience, then they won't get the government funds that finance the BBC and their multi-million-dollar contracts, which, by the way, I can guarantee you that we have many NGOs that fund the BBC also, that you and I pay for it. That $38 trillion in debt. But anyway, Johnny Midnight video. What in the heck is this? Play it for me.
Transgender woman's milk is just as good for babies as breast milk. That's according to a letter from the medical director at University Hospital Sussex NHS Foundation Trust. The claim was made as part of a response against campaign groups. The trust referred to studies and the World Health Organization guidance, including one case which found what it called no observable effects in babies fed by induced lactation.
Okay, now what this means is you've had a dude
Oh my gosh.
somehow or another get some sort of implant, augmentation, or whatever else, or I don't know how they do it. But this is from the country. Or maybe these are women. This might be it. Maybe these are women who are taking male hormones and transitioning to men. I don't know, because they don't identify it, because it's so asinine you can't. But these are obviously not pure breast milk from a biological woman. Now, this is from the country, and we showed you their cartoon pictures. Not cartoon in that they were making fun of something. They were cartoons used in their training of midwives in the UK to deliver babies. Their healthcare system is so bad that they don't have enough, there's no way for them to deliver all the babies, so they got to train midwives, especially with all the Muslims having 8 kids per. But anyway, so they actually put out these cartoons, these pictures of a man delivering a baby out of his penis hole. That's what got me in trouble in church, by the way, is me saying penis hole from the pulpit. But anyway, that country. Now that woman in that video, I'm assuming she's got a family. And you're like, Tom, we hear this from you, this diatribe from you all the time. I know you're going to hear it again. This woman has a family, and you're going to go up there. How do you do this? And you're going to have to go look at your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, your mom, your dad in the face and say, I'm a good person. When you go up there and you actually, thank you, Aaron, and you actually are going to say that trans milk is as beneficial or has the same benefit as non-trans female milk. All right, Aaron, here's how it works. Inducing lactation in males. Oh, okay, there you go. So, okay,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But anyway, inducing lactation in males, adult biological males, is biologically possible, but extremely rare, challenging, and requires significant hormonal intervention. It mimics the process that occurs in pregnant and postpartum women. Okay, so there you go. I mean,
gross.
I can just put it this way. I'm going to try to keep this as non-disgusting as I can, but I'm really not going to drink anything coming out of a dude. Especially if it's white. All right.
Oh, boy.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely wouldn't give it to my
I mean, you may not want to do that. I'm just going to put that out there for you. So, I mean,
thank you.
Truly, I mean, again, this woman goes home and you look at your daughter or your son and say, hey, look at what mommy told the public today, that men lactating, their milk is as good as natural female mother milk. And you're actually going to look your daughter or your son or your mother or your father and your husband and consider yourself to be a good person as you lie for a living. And you could tell as she was saying it, she knew she was lying. Do you know what you do? You have big balls. And you say, you know what? I'm not going to read that. And they're going to fire you. But at least, you know what? At least you have a shot at going to heaven as a non-liar. Now, you still have to get saved and have all your previous sin covered by the blood of Jesus. But at least you're not going to live the rest of your life on your knees to keep your job and go to hell for all of eternity so that you can keep, she probably make $150,000, $200,000 a year, whatever she is. It's BBC. It's the British Broadcasting Corporation. It's a government agency. I don't know how much she makes. But anyway, let's say she makes somewhere under $500,000. So you're going to just prostrate yourself and become an absolute unrepentant liar so that you can keep your job? There's nothing in the world that would make me lie for a living. Nothing. I don't care what you pay me. Listen, you could come up to me right now and offer me $10 billion for my dog. I wouldn't give them to you. $10 billion. Go ahead, anybody. Go ahead. You go find a friend. Offer me $10 billion for my dog. I ain't giving you that. I can't be bought because I could never live with myself. I was sitting there with $10 billion. If you said, Tom, you know what? We want you just tap down the hellfire and brimstone at Foundation Church by 15%. If I do that, now I'm lying. And you're commanded in Scripture, Revelation 22, 18, and 19, Deuteronomy 4, 1 and 2, to not add to the word or subtract from the word. Because if you do, you add to yourself the plagues that are written in this book. And if you take away from the word, he'll take your name out of the book of life. Not worth it for me. I'll give you 10 billion, Tom, if you do it. Well, okay, I got the 10 billion and I'm without God and I'm hellbound and I'm guilt-ridden. What good is that? No, thank you. So that's a good lead story. That was all over social media today. That trans milk is as good as women's milk. Okay, man milk coming out of a hairy nipple is as good as female milk.
Tasty. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's Herbert the Pervert's favorite milk. This comes from a dude.
Love man milk.
Yeah, he loves a good glass of man milk. We'll leave it at that. So anyway, all right, so let's look at the criminality of Democrats. Kevin Dalton video breaking. Dana Williamson, who's that? A former chief of staff for Gavin Newsom is among Gavin Newsom's down at the COP 30 right now. And just in case I don't get to it tonight, I may have to skip and get to it, but I'm going to show you this one video. Do you know they're having this COP 30 climate summit? And Gavin Newsom considers himself to be the American rep to the COP 30. And what they did, it's in Brazil, is they cut down the forest to accommodate all the flying in private jets. That's not right-wing conspiracy. It's been admitted to by the government that they chopped down tens of acres. I don't know how many acres they were of the Brazilian rainforest to build a runway so all the people like Bill Gates and Gavin Newsom who flew there in a private jet could land their private jets. So they're allegedly there to save the rainforest, and they cut it down to land their private jets. That's all the truth, by the way. But anyway, here's his former chief of staff, Dana Williamson, is among multiple people arrested and facing charges that include fraud, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and making false statements. Play for me.
Governor Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff has been arrested and is facing federal corruption charges. 4 other people, including former Secretary of Health and Human Services General Javier Becerra's former chief of staff, also is charged. The indictment names Dana Williamson, who left the governor's office nearly a year ago. The 23-count indictment claims Williamson and 4 others conspired to divert $225,000 in funds from a dormant campaign account. Court documents also detail multiple false statements made to federal investigators and as well as obstruction of justice. Williamson is scheduled to make her initial appearance in federal court this afternoon.
Democrats are such wonderful people, aren't they? I mean, these are great people. And they're the ones that are the arbiters of justice. They're the ones that are going after Donald Trump. They're the ones that are trying to put Donald Trump in prison for 700 years. It wasn't just Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff. It was also, remember Javier Becerra? Remember that? Javier Becerra? Remember him? His former chief of staff, too. Williamson conspired to funnel $225,000 in funds from a dormant political campaign to another person's account for personal use. Court documents obtained by the TV station KCRA listed Sean McCluskey as the co-conspirator who received those funds. At the time, he was the chief of staff for someone listed as public official number 1. Oh, it's so funny. That's Javier Becerra's former CEO. Chief of staff. McCluskey was the former chief of staff for former Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra. The indictment does not. And so you have, it's awfully. This must just be isolated. No, you know what? You have 2 very prominent Democratic Party corruptocrats, very corrupt. How is it that Gavin Newsom lives on a $9 million fully walled-in mansion on a government salary? Can anybody explain that to me? I would just love to see how that all works out, because this is how it all works. They never think they're going to get caught because it's campaign funds coming out of NGOs. They don't think they're ever going to be caught unless I could deep dive and go half an hour on NGOs and how all this gets funded, but I'm not going to do that to you. You hear it all the time on this podcast. Anyway, so this is people getting caught in the midst of the corruption. There it is. Dana Williamson and 4 others, former chief of staff to Gavin Newsom. 23-count indictment, conspiracy to commit bank and wire fraud, defraud. But I'm sure Gavin had no knowledge of any of this, right? No. Divert $225,000. That's the tip of the iceberg. I guarantee you it's millions. All right, let's go to the next one. This is my Democrats are criminals, my Democratic Party criminal section of the show. Libs a TikTok video. Breaking a staff member for, so we already got a staff member for Gavin Newsom, Javier Becerra, and now we got a staff member of Senator, one of the dumbest human beings on the planet, Tammy Duckworth, reportedly posed as a lawyer. Aaron, you side by side this one, actually. I don't think there's any sound to it. That's her at the counter. Posing as a lawyer and falsified a Homeland Security form in order to secure the release of who? A wrongly arrested grandma. No, to release a criminal illegal alien named Jose Esmiel Azuco Sandoval, an illegal alien who has been deported 4 times. And Tammy Duckworth dispatched one of her staff members to go pose as a lawyer and falsified a Homeland Security form. And this person had already been deported 4 times and had a conviction in the United States for DUI. And, Democrats got to go fight for this person, right? This has happened. There's the person doing it right there. Federal prison, big balls. Let's go to the next one. Dapper detective video. It's the criminality of the left. California Sheriff Jim Cooper is sounding the alarm on Gavin Newsom's mental health diversion law. That sounds great, doesn't it? That's letting violent offenders from child abusers to of course, child abusers, because Gavin Newsom loves to lower the criminal penalties on those who anally rape minors. That's already happened. Him and Scott Wiener, the state senator, they got together on a bill and to lower the criminal penalties for those who sodomize 14-year-olds. What is anybody watching this show or anybody in this room with me right now? There's 3 of us in here. Have you ever got up in the morning and said, you know what, my reason to live, my motivation today is to lower the criminal penalties for those who anally rape 14-year-olds?
Nope.
I'm just curious. Did anybody ever gotten up? You ever gotten up in the morning like Gavin Newsom's wife and said, you know what, the meaning of my life, my reason for living, my cause is to go lop off penises, testicles, and breasts of 15-year-old children. You ever gotten up like that's how demonic and evil these people are. But anyway, Gavin Newsom's mental health diversion law that's letting violent offenders, of course, from child abusers to armed robbers, dodge prison time, even in cases where babies were tortured or killed, have qualified for diversion. In other words, they were mentally incapable of knowing that raping a baby was wrong. Play it for me.
To get diversion, you can do anxiety, depression, caffeine addiction, caffeine withdrawal, marijuana addiction, marijuana withdrawal, alcohol, same thing. It's crazy. Anyone pretty much can find a condition that will suffice to get you diversion. And I know you have photos of the baby. Father got blackout drunk, drank a pint of vodka and some beers, and basically beat his 1-year-old to death. My deputies investigated that case. Horrific. And he got diversion. And here's where it rubs me the wrong way. When he got diversion, it erased his record. So think about this. His entire record is erased. That arrest, those charges, everything. And here in California, we do background checks. Schools do for everybody. You get fingerprinted on those background checks. So right now, when this person gets fingerprinted, the arrest record's not there. He can be a teacher. He can be a coach. He could be a Boy Scout, troop leader, all those things, because the record is not there. And that's scary. And I'm going to say, if you beat your kid to death, you should not be around kids. I don't want you around my kid. And that's what troubles me. And even a bigger issue, you could be diagnosed after the fact. So you think if someone got diagnosed with a condition, it would be beforehand, but they're being diagnosed after the fact. And I think when someone's accused of something horrific, I would expect that the diagnosis would come from a psychiatrist who's a medical doctor, okay? Not a psychologist. Even a licensed marriage family therapist can diagnose you after the fact. I'm not sure the rest of the country, but in California, if you want to volunteer and be a coach or work in schools, you do a fingerprint background check, and we make sure you're clear. Now, this individual is clear. We had a bank robber recently.
All right, so it goes on for about another 30 seconds. But anyway, so if you get this, let me read it exactly. Gavin Newsom's mental health diversion law. So if you get this diversion, in other words, you were having a panic attack, so when you beat your 1-year-old to death, then you had no knowledge of criminality. Not only do you get exonerated from the crime, all records of it are expunged. So you have no record of beating your 1-year-old to death. And as the sheriff said, Jim Cooper said, you can apply to be a teacher, even though you raped your own daughter. But you only did it because you were depressed. Again, you get diverted. Now, what is this all about? This is all about normalizing sex with minors. Yes, they're going to have to let off some. The Democrats are always willing to pay the price. Yeah, they're going to have to let off some murderers and armed robbers and carjackers. But really, who they're really trying to get out, because this is all, I guarantee you, Scott Wiener's behind all this, and these are all these homosexual, flamboyant, homosexual, sadomasochistic lawmakers in California, who also wanted to pass a law where you could abort your own child 28 days after he was born. Yes, exactly that. Look into it. Didn't pass yet. But anyway, this is all about, again, they're going to have to let off some murderers and armed robbers, but this is all about letting off pedophiles because that's the Democratic Party motive. You ever hear Democrats be ardently anti-pedophile? Why is it? You hear AOC talking about that the world's going to end in 10 years, and then 10 years later it doesn't, of course. And they're very ardent about that. They're very adamant about people getting their SNAP benefits, but you never hear them ever advocate for child sex abuse victims or child rape victims. You never hear that, do you? Remember they had the open border, 15,000 illegals a day that Biden was allowing in, many of them human and sex traffickers of minors. Never cared about any of that. And they don't care about it now, as a lot of these people are being removed out. They're very passionate, very adamant about illegals being remigrated out of the country, deported out of the country. But they never were ever adamant about the 8-year-old girl that we documented on the show that had 56 different specimens of semen in her body when she crossed the southern border as an 8-year-old. Never heard one thing about any of that. You know, her AOC did the fake crying outside the parking lot about kids in cages that Obama and Biden built. But nothing about these child rape victims at all. That's weird, isn't it? I mean, it's weird how the Democratic Party mind works. I mean, I was just thinking about this now. You have the shooting of the healthcare executive by Luigi Mangione. Remember that? And then he's this hero, and all these Democratic Party women want to marry him. But who is it that pays? Who was it that paid the healthcare executive? Their $800 billion a year Obamacare subsidy package. So the Democrats kill the person they paid. Isn't that weird? Let's see how the Democratic Party mind works. It doesn't work. Go to the next one for me. Paul Sperry tweet. New in presenting evidence in a motion to the court as part of its perjury defense, James Comey's team. Here it is again. Look at the date, November 10th, 2025. Altered 2 words in a transcript. Aaron, Will, anybody watching? What's that called?
Fraud.
Yeah, it's called tampering with evidence.
Tampering.
And it's which is a form of fraud. But I'm like, it's tampering with evidence. I mean, they need to go to federal prison. Well, is anybody going to have them? The balls to do it? Need to go to federal prison. They just tampered with evidence, just like Jack Smith tampered with the files down at Mar-a-Lago, putting those highlights or whatever you call them in the files. Remember the red highlights says classified on it, highly classified. Those weren't there. They put them in and then snapped the pictures of them. Okay, that's all tampering with evidence. But James Comey's legal team altered 2 words in a transcript. This is a written court freaking document that his attorneys got a hold of and altered the words of his 2020. And it's all directly germane to the case. He's being tried for obstruction of Congress and perjury. And the transcript that shows his perjury was altered by his own attorneys. If James Comey and Maureen Comey don't spend at least a decade in federal prison, we have no criminal justice system. Of his 2020 Senate testimony, to make it seem as if Senator Ted Cruz asked Comey a key question he didn't actually ask him during the hearing. Now, right then and there, the judge needs to put them in jail for contempt of court, pending tampering with evidence charges. This isn't even like they did their own deposition, which again, it's all the same, but I'm not trying to layer it as far as immorality, but if they did their own deposition and they altered their own document, this is a transcript from a senatorial hearing altered by his own attorneys. And James Comey's this model of virtue. Remember, he's always alleges to be this moral man who listens to Taylor Swift, a little pedophilic right then and there. But I mean, this guy, and Democrats are truly unbelievable. And these are the people who want Donald Trump to be looked at for Epstein, even though he did absolutely nothing with Epstein as far as criminality was concerned. Go to the next one for me. Another Paul Sperry tweet. Laugh out loud. James Comey's high-priced legal team just cited a movie. This is how brilliant these people are. Cited a movie to support the argument. Trump didn't have to directly instruct Halligan to indict. They're trying to suppress the charges for now, saying that Halligan was wrongly appointed, Lindsey Halligan, who is the U.S. attorney who's prosecuting after Donald Trump fired the friend of Comey, who was not prosecuting him. Forgot his name for now. What do they use? Do they go to legal text, court precedent? No, they go to a movie called C. Beckett, a 1964 film, and quote it as if it's legal precedent. That's who these people are. A ruler need not take the form of literal instructions. That was a movie line. Will no one rid me of this meddlesome priest? This is all a movie line from a movie called Beckett. This is who these people are. Absolutely out of their mind. Go to the next one for me. We are Breitbart. Prosecutors ex-Hoax now spied for China. How many is that now? How many now? How many spies for China? We got Swallows Well, who was banging Fang Fang. Bang, bang, Fang Fang. We have Dianne Feinstein's limousine driver for 20 years as a Chinese spy. And now we have Hochulade, the governor of California. Ex-Hochulade spied for China. CCP paid her enough to buy mansion, Ferrari, condo in Hawaii. All with Kathy. I wonder why it is that everything that we do in this country ends up benefiting the Communist Party of China, with the exception of what Donald Trump does, because he's already a billionaire and can't be bought off by the CCP. But everybody that's a Democratic Party politician and the people around them can be. Go next for me. Lives a TikTok tweet. Illinois Alderman Timmy Knutson sent out an email doxing ICE's live locations to alert illegals on ICE operations. What needs to happen to Timmy? If you're out there doxing ICE and sending out their operation details, what needs to happen to this effeminate man? Federal prison for obstructing and endangering federal agents. Very simple. All right, go to the next one for me. Eric Doherty video. Let's go into some Trump DOJ stuff. Breaking, an enormous victory. FBI Director Kash Patel announces the pipeline to create fentanyl has been shut down. Play for me.
At a level never seen before. While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug. Effective immediately, essentially, President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl that kills tens of thousands of Americans. These substances are now banned, and they will no longer be utilized by the Mexican drug trafficking organizations or any other DTOs around the world to make this drug. This historic achievement has saved tens of thousands of lives. This historic achievement would not have been possible without the tremendous team of President Trump, the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Ambassador Perdue.
Now, with the criticism, you always have to acknowledge great accomplishments, as we do on this podcast, because we are not going to be blackpilled. This is a great accomplishment. This has been going on for years. What goes on? China makes the precursors for fentanyl in China, ships them to Venezuela, ships them to Mexico, and they make the fentanyl that kills 100,000 Americans per year. It's like an invasion army that you never even have to send in. They just send in the fentanyl. It kills 100,000 Americans per year. What did Biden do over 4 years? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And all you have to do is work it into an economic deal. It's over. So these precursors coming from China, it's done. This is a major accomplishment from Donald J. Trump. And he does great things and then simultaneously says he's going to import 600,000 Chinese students into our university and college system because he doesn't want the university and college system, which is nothing more than a Democratic Party indoctrination center, to go out of business. For me, I think really 75% of colleges and universities should be closed anyway. And they're funded by our $38 trillion worth of debt. And so you never, Trump is crazy, man. You just never know. But most of what he does is good. Problem is right now, he's making some galactic errors. That was a huge error to basically say, I'm gonna bring in 600,000 Chinese students to go to a university, basically doubling how many are already here because there are already 300,000. And it's already been proven by Ashley Moody, former AG of Florida, now senator, who took Rubio's spot in the Senate. It's already been proved by Ashley Moody that every single Chinese student, when they come into this country, make a pledge to the PLA, People's Liberation Army, to be a spy and to report to the PLA anything that they see that would be beneficial to the CCP. See, you know why? Because Trump still believes in old school America. You know, Aaron and I like Aaron, it's even really kind of too old for Aaron and even too old for Will, really, in most cases. But like, I love, like, I saw a video of high school in 1986 when I graduated. I'm like, man, it was a better time. and Aaron and I were watching a video we played on the podcast of the mall in the 1990s. Yeah. You know, back when you actually had to go to malls and actually associate with people instead of buying things with headphones on and VR goggles. But anyway, so I mean, those were better times. And Trump, as an almost 80-year-old man, or 80-year-old about to turn 81, whatever, I can't remember which one he is. But anyway, he harkens back. He thinks universities are universities. They're not. They're Democrat. The people, he wants a system to stay open that's going to persecute him for the rest of his life if Vance loses. coming up. So I don't get it, but these are the great things that he does. I mean, this is all being done, I mean, in at a very fast rate that you get this problem solved. So great job here with Trump. Here's another part. This is actually written in the big, beautiful bill. Adam Hughes video, weaponization. Donald, tonight's funding bill, this is the CR thing, lets GOP senators, it was written into the bill. This is brilliant. It's a horrible bill, but this part's brilliant. Senators allows GOP senators to sue Biden's FBI and Jack Smith for spying $500,000 each. That is the whole Arctic Frost scheme where they were getting the phone records of Ted Cruz, of Lindsey Graham, and numerous other Republican-only senators as they got their phone records without subpoenas, without notifying the senators, which of course is illegal. And Jack Smith needs to spend the rest of his life in federal prison for tampering with evidence charges alone, let alone this. So anyway, now every conservative they targeted deserves the same right. Play for me.
Some Republicans are joining Democrats expressing concern. Then Special Counsel Jack Smith, though, ultimately was never able to take then former President Donald Trump to trial as the Supreme Court stepped in. Now, the way this provision is written, it's tucked away on page 217 through 229 of the funding bill. Senators could bring lawsuits and sue the federal government using taxpayer money if federal law enforcement seizes or subpoenas their data without notifying them. The damages could mean each senator could get $500,000 for each violation. Senator Lindsey Graham was one of the senators who later found out that his data got into the hands of Jack Smith's team. Here he is a few weeks ago. Watch.
If they violated my constitutional rights, if they trampled on the separation of powers involving me, I'm going to sue the hell out of these people.
Democrats in the House not amused by this. In fact, the leader of the party, Hakeem Jeffries, hoping some Republicans cross the aisle to join Democrats and take this provision out before it's passed.
The notion that 8 Republican senators signed off by John Thune and the Republicans, apparently in the Senate and in the House, would give themselves the ability, essentially, to rip millions of taxpayer dollars away from the American people so they could line their pockets?
Jack Smith's attorney has gone on the record to say a number of people have stated falsely that Mr. Smith tapped senators' phones or spied on their communications or surveilled their conversations. Toll records are historical in nature and do not include the content of calls. Wiretapping, by contrast, involves intercepting the telecommunications in real time, which the special counsel's office did not do. The House will vote later today. It's unclear if they will allow House members to seek the same relief. Right now, it's just senators, but Republican congressmen from Texas, Chip Roy, and several other Republicans have gone on the record to say they have problems with this Senate provision.
So we don't have the time to do a deep dive into Arctic Frost, but that just is brilliant to write that into the bill, forcing now the Democrats to sign this, and Jack Smith needs to be brought to heel. And when you sit there and they can get into word salad about what wiretap means or anything else, they got a hold of the phone records illegally of senators without subpoenas and without warrants. And that is just the way that it is. And it's just another criminal act, many criminal acts conducted by Jack Smith and Arctic Frost. All right, let's go to the next one. Will, you're going to love this one. Wall Street Apes video. China secretly bought a trailer park hidden behind multiple shell companies that shares a fence with our military's bomber fleet. Play for me.
The Daily Caller reports a U.S. nuclear bomber fleet shares a fence with a trailer park linked to Chinese intelligence. Here it is. So it's one thing for a Chinese couple to buy a trailer park. Here it is. This is thanks to Google Image. It is another thing for them to go to great lengths to hide who they are, including using multiple shell companies to conceal their identities. Why is this all important? Because they bought a trailer park in the middle of Missouri, no disrespect to Missouri. It's at the foot of the runway where America's largest fleet of B-2 bombers take off. So you can see on the map there, the B-2s are just on the other side of those trees. So here's the map. The trailer park is right behind the runway, less than a mile away. So in the event of war, our B-2 bombers would be taking off over Chinese-owned land. It's even more alarming when you factor in that the shell companies trace back to a convicted fraudster with alleged ties to the Chinese Communist Party. This is happening in Republican Congressman Mark Alford's district in the state of Missouri. As I said, no disrespect to Missouri. I don't think you buy a trailer park near Whitman Air Force Base in Missouri as an investment when you're sitting in Beijing going, you know, honey, what could we invest in? Oh, I know. Let's find a trailer park.
And get a lot of double wides.
Right.
I don't think they're interested in that, Leland. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, the Whiteman Air Force Base is slap dab in the middle of our district, home of the B-2 stealth bomber, soon to be home of the B-21 Raider, which is coming in the not-too-distant future. And it's going to exponentially increase the size of that force there on Whiteman Air Force Base.
And make the Chinese investment all the more valuable.
Exactly.
So, no, but
All right, so there you go. And the map has already been shown to Donald Trump. Donald Trump will do something about it. It's already been shown. This actually happened in 2017 when they purchased this before anybody really knew, because it's bought through a series of shell companies. And oftentimes you won't know until you actually have somebody trace it back. So I'm not exonerating anybody, but I wouldn't even incriminate Biden if it happened, because it's just a matter of now. The great determining factor here is now that you know, what do you do? Because Donald Trump has been shown the map of how many of these properties adjacent, directly connecting this. The only thing between the CCP and our B-52 bombers is a chain link fence covered in ivy. That's it. World War III starts off. They could go out and blow up the runway, and then none of our B-2 bombers could take off. But anyway, so the map is it's absolutely. I don't want to say horrifying because I don't want to live in fear. I don't live in fear, but it just shows the galactic incompetence of our regulatory agencies in this country, because there are so many properties that are directly adjacent to military bases owned by the CCP in this country. Not to mention, they're the second largest private farmland owner in America behind Bill Gates. Here's the thing. This comes back to whether you're talking about illegals or anything else. You have no rights here. You are not subject to the jurisdiction therein of the Constitution. So you have no rights. We have every right to not sell foreigners our land. It is as simple as that. And certainly no foreigner, especially a foreign adversary, a geopolitical adversary, a military adversary, an economic adversary, you certainly do not sell them a multi-acre trailer park right next to our B-52 runway. I mean, come on. Look at the status of our country. I mean, it's truly unreal sometimes when you break it down. All right, look at this one. Eric Doherty video. Breaking Chicago shootings. Let's look at the crime stats. Matter of fact, just throw that up side by side. I'll just talk over this one instead of showing the video. Look at the crime stats since Trump took over Chicago. Amazing. You put out a couple National Guard troops. I mean, these aren't even the Marines. This isn't SEAL Team 6. This is National Guard troops. This is like moms and dads from around the country with M16s on every corner. Look at the crime rates. Gone down. 16 homicides have gone down 16%. Shootings down 35%. Robberies down 41%. Transit crime down 20%. Carjackings down nearly 50% just since Trump took over. And what's J.B. Pritzker trying to do? What's Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, trying to do? Kick him out so he can get the crime rate back up. That's what it means to be a Democrat in 2025. Let me show you this one. Real Robert video. Here it is. Nearly half. You're going to love this. Nearly half of Islamic immigrants in what state? Can anybody guess? Little hint. Tampon. Here we are again. Tampon Timmy State. Ilhan Omar State. Half of all Islamic immigrants, nearly half of all Islamic immigrants in Minnesota found to have committed Ilhan Omar style immigration fraud, marriage fraud, tax fraud, loan fraud, bribery, forgery, perjury, bigamy, and incest during a recent sweep by the Department of Homeland Security. Play for me.
Since September 19th, officers from our Fraud Detection and National Security Directorate, working in teams, have conducted over 1,000 site visits across the Minneapolis-St. Paul area as part of this operation. What they found should shock all of America. Focusing on a list of over 1,000 target cases involving more than 900 individuals, our officers encountered blatant marriage fraud, visa overstays, people claiming to work at businesses that can't be found, forged documents, abuse of the H-1B visa system, abuse of the F-1 visas, and many other discrepancies. Over the course of the operation, our officers found indication of fraud, non-compliance, or public safety and national security concerns in nearly a little less than 50% of the cases interviewed. We found troubling patterns with the Uniting for Ukraine program that should have raised serious concerns under other administrations, such as an individual filing to sponsor more than 100 aliens and organizations sponsoring hundreds. We are continuing to investigate these cases. Some of the other troubling cases that our officers found. In one case, officers identified an alien who had overstayed his visa waiver, who was the son of a known or suspected terrorist on the no-fly list. He had previously been found to have engaged in marriage fraud, which resulted in the denial of several immigration benefit requests. He was arrested and is now presently being returned to his country of origin. In another, an individual admitted to obtaining a fake death certificate in Kenya for just $100 to prove he was no longer married. In reality, his wife is alive, living here in Minneapolis, and is the mother of 5 of his children. And incidentally, he has another wife living in Sweden with whom he has an additional 3 children. In another case, an alien entered the United States without inspection in 2023, was released by Border Patrol. The alien married a U.S. citizen while in removal proceedings and was interviewed at the Minneapolis-St. Paul USCIS field office just last week, where both he and his American spouse, stated under oath that their marriage was legitimate. The USCIS officers conducting the interview were suspicious. The site visits were authorized the same day. The American spouse ultimately that afternoon admitted the marriage was fraudulent and entered into solely for immigration purposes and withdrew her petition for that alien. This type of same-day action for interview, from interview to site visit, has really never happened before. And I am incredibly impressed and thankful to the diligent work of the agents who made that happen for the first time, but not for the last time. And finally, I wanted to note, in one case, an alien engaged in marriage fraud by taking advantage of an elderly U.S. citizen spouse, including threats and severe neglect. The American spouse was able to divorce the alien with the help of her family and caregivers, but the family still lives in fear of retaliation from the alien over the failed marriage fraud scam. These are not victimless crimes. Every case of fraud we uncover damages our national security, undermines the integrity of our immigration system, and as I just gave you an example, has real consequences.
All right, so what's the Democratic Party response to this? Well, in Chicago, a federal judge is preparing to order 3,000 illegals detained by ICE during Operation Blitz in Chicago released back onto the streets. That's what it means to be a Democrat in 2025. All right, 1017, that's good. All right, rants tonight, Jules, 21 hours, $10, Skunk 71, $10. Appreciate you guys in the rant. Appreciate you guys in the chat. Back here tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Stick around for the post game. Love you all. God bless you.
Listen, if you're a Christian like me in this room right now, I'm not overly comfortable with the word. The word's quick and powerful and sharp, pierces, divides. Everybody thinks, you know what? That if it's Christianity, then it's acceptable and everybody will love me. No. It's not what Scripture says. It says, you shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth until the end shall be saved. That's just Jesus talking in Matthew chapter 10, verse 22.
Have you ever had a question you were too afraid to ask? Or a thought you knew everyone was thinking but no one dared to say out loud? Welcome to the Hope Hotline, where nothing's off limits and we say what others won't. Real talk, raw truth, your questions finally answered.
Thanks for watching the Tom Laipply podcast. We appreciate your support. As a special thank you, when you donate $25 or more, you will get a free TLP koozie. Enjoy your favorite cold drink while tuning in to our latest takes on current events. Your support keeps us going. Donate now to claim yours.
Back to what happened on that day.
He
you said
did
you
not
weren't.
say that.
He has testified that, Mr.
He
President.
did not say that.
But you said you weren't very involved that day. You did tell your supporters to come to Washington. You tweeted about it, about
Sure,
that speech that happened on the rally.
Am I allowed to say that?
When they went to the Capitol, and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police officers. Why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out. So if you look at, on January 5th, the day before, I said, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. This was the day before, and this was in the form of Twitter. Now use Truth Social. I think it's far superior, okay? I hope everybody's on Truth. If you look January 6th, this is before 2:30. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am asking, and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on Truth, and I'm staying on Truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
Mr. President, I looked at the same timeline that you did.
But you didn't report that. You know why? Because it was taken down.
We did report it. I was reporting that
day. It was taken down and it wasn't.
But when it was clear.
And we have to start educating people about all kinds of beauty.
Yes.
And our beauty is so powerful and so unique that it is worthy of the conversation, and it's worthy of demanding the respect that we're owed for who we are and what we offer to the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not allowed on the bed. You. No. Yeah.
Wait a second.
We're not, Brennan. We are not starting this. No.
Who are the people that got killed? Of 963, how many do you think were black?
600 will be black.
600.
And then the rest will be maybe Hispanic.
600 were black. What would you say?
Probably 500.
Here we go.
Oh.
This is a thinking class right now. I'm walking you through some thinking. Okay, go to the next one. So how many of the 963 people were unarmed? How many do you think were unarmed? Here we go. Go to the next slide. So here are the numbers. You said 400 were unarmed. You said 500 were unarmed. What do you think about that number?
I'm actually kind of shocked. I honestly thought I'm not saying the media, I don't know, they just made it seem the guy was innocent, It's crazy how 517 had a gun. I would think it would be less than that.
So 22 out of 233 black people who police killed in 2016 were unarmed. 22. So that means you have a 0.6 chance in a million of being unarmed, black skin, and killed by the police. If he stays unarmed, you say, bro, listen, in spite of how you're dressed, in spite of who you are, if you remain unarmed, right? That's the likelihood of you being killed by the police. If you're going to protest like that, but this whole thing is based on police violence against black and brown people. So if you're going to protest, really step out in this way, you got to know what you're protesting. Is it a genocide? So when I see someone holding a sign up that says, "Stop the genocide of black people," at a protest, and I'm saying, I wouldn't call that a genocide. There's a lot happening here, but that's not what I would call it. It's really important that we know what we're talking about so that we can be confident and have realistic and good conversations.
I hate when people talk about black women being obese. I hate it because it becomes a way to blame us for a set of conditions that we didn't create. We're moving, we're taking care of kids, but our food quality suffers. We are living in the Trump era. And look, those policies kill our people. You can't get access to good health care, good insurance. The research says that black women, when we do the same diets as white women, we lose less weight and we lose it slower, even when we're following the diet, than our white women counterparts. The racism that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same.
Who was casting the votes against opening the government, Democrats or Republicans?
Who was
casting the votes?
Scott, who was wanting to cut SNAP benefits?
Nobody.
And who was playing up SNAP benefits after 2 courts ruled that it was unallowed?
Republicans voted to fund SNAP 15 times. Democrats voted to defund it 15 times.